In the rugged hills of North Yorkshire, where rolling green moorland meets sheer limestone cliffs, lies a dark and deadly secret. A place where earth and water conspire to create a deadly hidden world beneath the surface. This is Mossdale Caverns, home to the worst caving tragedy in recorded history. On a summer day in 1967, 6 young men entered the cave and never came out. This is their story, one of exploration, friendship, risk, and loss. A story buried in rock and remembered in silence. Mossdale Caverns was discovered in 1941 by Bob Leakey, an audacious explorer and cousin of famed archaeologist Louis Leakey. While most of the world was at war, Bob was venturing underground, pushing the limits of what was humanly possible. He crawled into a small opening at the base of Mossdale Scar and emerged into a cave system that would become legendary in the British caving community. Mossdale wasn't like other caves. It was long, over 10 kilometers mapped, or just over 6 miles, and tight, claustrophobic, cold, waterlogged. Most of it required belly crawling through freezing streams. Some passages were only 18 inches high, with ceilings brushing your helmet. But to those drawn to the caving world's ultimate test, Mossdale was the prize. The entrance to Mossdale Caverns lies high on the fells, above the village of Grassington, near Mossdale Beck, a small, unassuming stream that flows over limestone beds. The cave's entrance is just a slit in the ground, surrounded by sheep trails and windswept hills. But what makes Mossdale so dangerous is that it lies directly beneath the stream. When it rains even lightly, water from the moor above can flood into the cave with little warning. The system becomes a trap. There are no large chambers, no vertical drops, just miles of tight, low crawls, sumps, and restrictions. Escape only happens at a glacial pace. Flooding is practically instant. On the morning of June 24, 1967, 10 cave explorers from the Leeds University Speleological Association set out to explore Mossdale Caverns. They were experienced, passionate, and united by a shared love of adventure. The 6 who entered deep into the cave that day and would never return were David Adamson, 26, a seasoned cave explorer and mentor figure. Dave had already completed several major explorations and was considered one of the best in the group. Jeffrey Warren Boireau, 24, a physicist and endurance legend. He had once spent 105 days underground for a psychological study and was respected for his mental toughness. William Frakes, 19, a geology student fascinated by the underground landscape. His academic passion for rock formations matched his skill in the field. John Ogden, 20, a medical student with extraordinary skill and calm under pressure. John was the natural leader, known for his quiet confidence. Michael John Ryan, 17, the youngest of the team. Bold and fearless, Michael was eager to prove himself among the older students. Colin Richard Vickers, 23, soft-spoken and methodical. Malcolm brought precision and planning to every expedition. These men weren't strangers. They'd trained together, explored together, and many had been in Mossdale before, some multiple times. This was not a reckless group. They were meticulous. But even the best can't plan for the unexpected. The team split into 2 groups. 4 stayed near the entrance, performing a surface survey. The other 6 went deep, pushing further than they had ever gone before, aiming for the far marathon crawl. At the time, the skies overhead were gray but dry. Unbeknownst to them, heavy rain was falling just a few miles away, rain that would soon change everything. As the 6 explorers passed through passages like Rough Crawl, Knee Wrecker, and High-Level Mud Cavern, the stream above, Mossdale Beck, began to swell. Water from the moors surged into the cave system. By the time the explorers reached their furthest point, the passages behind them were flooding. Escape was now impossible. Mossdale floods with incredible speed. There's no warning, no escape route, and no dry refuge. The 6 men likely retreated to the largest chamber they could find, between Far Marathon and Rough Crawl. There they waited, hoping the water would recede. It's believed they turned off their lamps to conserve carbide. At the time, cave explorers used carbide lamps, which relied on calcium carbide, because they provided a portable, efficient, and relatively inexpensive light source for exploring caves, releasing acetylene gas when the carbide reacted with water. There they sat, huddled in darkness, in silence. When the surface team realized their friends were overdue, they raised the alarm. Within hours, rescue teams from across the region arrived. The operation became one of the most intense cave rescue efforts in British history. Over 100 volunteers, cavers, climbers, police, and local villagers worked in shifts to pump out water, crawl into flooded passages, and try to reach the missing 6. The cold was unbearable. Some rescuers nearly drowned. Progress was agonizingly slow. It wasn't until 72 hours later, on June 27th, that they finally reached the chamber. What they found confirmed their worst fears. All 6 men had perished. A decision was made. Recovering the bodies would put more lives at risk. The chamber was sealed, effectively turning the chamber into a mausoleum. Mossdale Caverns became their final resting place. The tragedy devastated the caving world and prompted a reckoning within the community. Stricter safety protocols were introduced. Caves were no longer to be explored without close weather monitoring. Emergency procedures were revised and made standard. Mossdale Caverns was declared closed, with a locked gate installed at the entrance. Only a few have entered since, illegally and at great risk. The names of the 6 lost explorers were engraved on a memorial stone above the scar, watching over the place they loved and died exploring. In later years, cave diving and mapping technology improved, and several new systems were found that connect or run near Mossdale. But the chamber where the men died remains untouched, sacred ground to the caving world. Mossdale Caverns still lies beneath the moors, silent, dark, and deadly. For some, it's a tomb. For others, a symbol of the extreme limits of human exploration. The men who died there were not thrill seekers. They were careful, skilled, and bonded by a passion only akin to summit fever experienced by the earliest mountaineers. Few understand a love of the unknown. Their story is not just a tragedy, it's a reminder that even in the darkest places, courage and camaraderie shine the brightest. If this story moved you, take a moment to honor those who risk everything in pursuit of the unknown. Like, subscribe, and share, so their story is never forgotten. The earth holds many secrets, but some are meant to stay buried. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, if you feed on facts, you'll never go hungry.